Welcome to the DNX podcast, the number one resource for entrepreneurs, nomads, and impact-driven souls. And I am your coach, Silvia. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today with Monika Proffitt, who is an international speaker and author of the Blockchain 101, serial entrepreneur who is at the nexus of blockchain and social impact. Thank you so much for being here today. Really excited to have you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here too. Thank you, Silvia.
So we've crossed paths many, many times.
Oh my gosh, more than I can count, actually.
I know. You're sort of constantly in my stratosphere of women in business, how we're going to change the entrepreneurial landscape and what technologies are we going to use to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and us ladies got to stick together.
Yes, we do, and there are many places where we operate and we're the only ones in the room, right? There's not a lot of us there.
That's true.
So it's been really, really fun over this. It's been, I don't know, it might have been like almost a year that we've been back and forth crossing paths. And I'm so excited we finally get to do this podcast because I've been wanting to interview you for quite some time. And we had to reschedule a few times because us busy women,
Yeah, it happens.
It's hard to make it work sometimes. So talk to me a little bit more about what you're currently focusing on. What is, what's your opinion on the future of money and sustainable business?
Oh my gosh. So my future of money shtick is that I think everything is becoming digitized and decentralized in general. And that's not just because I'm a blockchain enthusiast and I'm deep in blockchain, but I think that this technology is it's reflecting a larger philosophical shift in our consciousness as human beings, honestly. I think that, we would not have thought up the centralized database until we were thinking about data in the way that it was its own entity. It was just to know something had its own inherent value. And that came about in the 1960s. And now we've got this internet where you've got not just communication where people can know what's happening in Africa, but they can now transact with someone who's in Africa. And that's becoming faster and faster and cheaper and cheaper. And the reason that it's ever not been fast and cheap is that it was centralized to begin with. The currency was centralized. It was country specific. Different countries that had different values. It was more stable or less stable, but they were all government kind of issued and government backed, whether that was for the better or for the worse. And then some of those currencies came out ahead. Right? Like the US dollar. You can use it in more places than just the US. You can't really do that with, the Mexican peso as easily. It just doesn't really translate. So I think the future of money is something that's going to be more available and less government controlled and government backed and more, in a sense, decentralized. I mean, it's about, I think, what blockchain is going to bring us and the ability to think of things that don't belong to one central authority, but that they are verified because the whole crowd agrees with it, which is how blockchain works. I think that's the future of what we're going to see it becoming valuable.
Mm. Yeah, especially for us more globally operating individuals, it's sometimes fascinating to me in how many different currencies I transact in a day.
Yeah,
just like simple
just
logistics. In a day, just like simple logistics. I spent an hour this morning trying to figure out simple logistics. I have a globally distributed team myself, and they all get paid in different currencies sometimes, and.
Right.
Or the banks in which they're using have certain policies that today I was trying to transfer money I was trying to pay an invoice that wouldn't allow me to do a transfer from a personal account in US dollars because it had to be a business account. And it was just I'm just like, why do you care how I pay my money?
Why would you care? Except they have some obscure risk profile that you have to somehow psychically know and abide by, and then you can finally transact. And then it's up to a couple of people. I had this similar experience way back in the 90s, actually, when I was working full time. I was in high school and I wanted to be able to take my tips at the end of the night and deposit them in the ATM, not take them home. I was worried about keeping cash in my house. And I just wanted to be able to just deposit them. And I wasn't 18, so I couldn't get an ATM card. And because that makes lots of sense. If you're under 18, you can't have an ATM card because you might do something stupid. I mean, someone thought that up, but I needed it. I really needed it to be able to just get through my workday and get back to school in the morning and then not have this cash on me and da-da-da-da-da. So it turns out that for me, I was very lucky because the cook at the restaurant that I worked at was married to the vice president of a bank that I was already a member of, like already a customer of. And he said, don't worry, I'll just go in and see my wife. She'll get you a card. She knows that you're a good kid, whatever. And I walk in, I go straight to her office. She hands me my card. I walk out and I'm like, I guess this is how it works when you know the right people. But that shouldn't work that way. That shouldn't be, only if you're lucky that you get these things. It's really interesting now. I see that with cryptocurrency globally, 20% of cryptocurrency in the world is held by people under 18 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's the future of money. It's going to be what more and more people that didn't have access and have the ability to decide what they're going to do, they're going to have more options. So
100%. And it's I think things that trip me up is always the transfer of money, or when what I think is, but the idea around permanent residencies, for verifications, because
right. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me because my businesses are registered at a business address. And if I'm doing business transactions, I'm going to use my business address for business invoices and business transactions. And then you want me to give you a permanent address? That's just like, no. Like,
my business does not live in my home. It's sorry.
Yeah. It's like, no, I need your permission and address for verifications. And I have multiple of those, because I'm a global operator. And then they're all confused. I'm like, why don't we just use the business addresses? Because they're streamlined, but that's not legit. The amount of time I spend on this stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that these pain points are becoming more and more encountered by everybody as we have more distributed teams. The future of work, you talk about that a lot in your podcast, the future of work and how we're not just tied to one place. So this predictability that's assumed by banks and large institutions, we just can't even provide them with it, even if they wanted it. So rather than try to, argue for our legitimacy, we might as well just go to another solution that's going to just say, we'll just, you can just do this because it's already inherently trusted that you can use this currency. We already know it's yours. We already know you're sending it somewhere. There's no takebacks. There's no do-overs. Here you go. Here's all the responsibility, but then here's all the authority too,
Yeah, what I find really interesting is that some developing countries are actually much faster than others. For example, I was making a purchase the other day with a European card in a store in Mexico, and there was a disruption of the service, so it was unclear if the charge went through. And my mobile app immediately showed that the charge was made, which makes it interesting with technology. Their servers showed that the card was declined. And, what was interesting was that the store manager could actually call the bank and would immediately call the bank to see if it was declined or went through. And so it took a total of about 7 minutes to clarify whether or not the charge went through. We know that would not happen in, let's say, somewhere in America or in Europe itself. I'm like, ooh, it's taking a check on that. I'm like, deal with it later,
Right.
And it felt really, it's just the immediate ability to clarify the problem without further delay is so important because we have technology. It's traceable. It's trackable.
Exactly. It's
and
doable.
It's immediate. It's not complicated. It's like you swipe my card, it shows up on my phone. If there's a disruption, we should be able to verify this within that same time frame.
Right. And they don't have the same ledger that you do. They have some sort of like other bank ledger for merchants that's not been synced with the ledger that you get on your phone, which is absurd. Right. Yeah. So again, like having discrepancies in ledgers is the biggest problem. And when it's centralized, someone can hack in there and then change or steal or, manipulate whatever data they want. And that's really the biggest problem, I think, with financial technology.
Yeah.
But I think that also we're having, like in different countries, we're seeing some countries leapfrogging in a way that they're going slower in other countries, right? So, for example, in telephones in the United States, we started with landlines, eventually upgraded to mobile. Well, look at all of Africa. Pick any country in Africa. And, they pretty much went from like, typically, not across the board, but in many places, it was no phone to mobile phone. There was no infrastructure waiting for the middle infrastructure, right? The middle step. It's like just the end step. So I think that people can go from unbanked in some countries and in some regions to crypto banked. Yeah. And there's not going to be a centralized government bank in between, a step to like try to get them off of. So the US is funny because people have had the privileges of being in these first and middle step systems, where the end step or the next step is going to be maybe harder for them to adopt because they're like pretty comfortable with their landlines, and they're like, why would I leave the Chase Bank, and what's really the benefit? And I think as this technology kind of catches up, people are going to see no fee or transactions across the board globally that are instantaneous or within like 10 seconds tops. And that's going to be so wonderful because it kind of gives emerging markets an advantage because there's such fast adopters. And I'd like to see more advantages for emerging markets and for emerging people, frankly.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, people always ask me this about how do I connect to the rest of the world when I'm traveling in places like Mexico or Thailand. And so, just rest assured, I've always had better reception via internet or even 3G by hotspotting my phone than in New York City in my apartment.
Yeah, you'll notice I'm sitting right next to the window here in New York City just to make sure I have good reception. Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't have to do that. I've never had to do that in Thailand. I could sit on the beach on a rock and just have a conference call on top of the rock. Because, the Wi-Fi network is built out so well. I mean, there's no landline. You can hotspot the phone really well.
Done.
No interruptions. Yeah. Time Warner has always failed me in New York.
Yeah, exactly. And they've overcharged me and underdelivered. And every time they don't deliver, they're like, well, that's written in our terms of service somewhere deep in the contract. And I just think there should be an app to replace you.
There should be, Thank you. I agree. I know. Now I just hotspot my phone everywhere because I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what you think in sustainability in business really means and how it's defined.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you, how would you define sustainability? Because I think a lot of people talk sustainability in terms of what the business is doing in the world. Is it sustainable business? Is it, is it green or is it conscious? Is it have a social impact element? Is it playing a long game or is it just out to make an immediate buck and get in and get out and have an exit and leave? What is the real, I guess, philosophy or morality behind the business? But I don't know if that's really the definition of sustainability that also has a lot of merit and can drive a company, which I think the other way to define sustainability is, are people using their own brains as best they can? Are they using best practices with themselves, with their own teams? Are they developing their own personal and interpersonal culture that brings about sustainability long term? And I think if people come from that place on their own personal development journey, they are already playing a long game in terms of getting enough sleep at night, right? That's the short game is get up earlier, run harder, hustle, gonna burn out. But the long-term gain is, you do it right from the beginning, be more effective, not more busy. And then, you end up, I think, being able to even consider a long game because you're not so totally exhausted in the short term.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned as a business leader?
Be honest with myself.
What does that mean to you?
Well, I guess it means I have high expectations of myself, and we all fail ourselves. That means we're going to fail our team. And that means sometimes we're going to stumble. But if we are able to be honest about it and say, that's just really not what I'm good at. Can you help me? Or this is what I am really good at. Can you get out of my way? It makes those conversations so much easier because you come as a whole person and people can accept a whole person. I think what people can't accept is a charlatan, So I think that it's really be honest with yourself, but that comes out of something that I usually tell people on my team as soon as somebody makes a big mistake. And sometimes I see it coming and I think I'm not going to stop them because we're going to learn more out of this failure than we're going to learn if we avoid it. So I'll watch people fail and say, all right, yes, you could have done it better. Sure. Let's have a debrief about it. But you realize that as a team, we're only as strong as how we recover from our failures. We don't know how strong we are on a good day. We know how strong we are when we're getting over a bad day. Yeah.
You said something really important. I call it the art of failing forward, right? You're as strong as your ability to actually recover from your mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was a moment where you really learned that for the first time?
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur in that I've owned and run, several businesses now. I just sold my last company, which was in the arts and culture hospitality space. It was an artist retreat center and residency in New Mexico. And I think that was where I had a lot of opportunity to learn about who belonged on my team and who didn't, and why, and who I worked best with, and what my own flaws were, and how you got to just find people that can pick up with the things that you're not good at, and you can pick up the things they're not good at. So I learned a lot about just, finding the A+ people that make up a magic team. And because of all of the times I got that wrong, I now can feel it in my gut when I'm getting the magic team together, right? Like when there's the right people in the room, or there's like somebody's like off, and they can be saying all the right things, but I'm still like, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I don't think they're part of the magic team. And now I can kind of feel it, and so I can navigate towards it a lot more easily.
Yeah. What does that gut instinct feel like to you?
It feels like sometimes I'll have to ask somebody, could you repeat that? Because it just didn't resonate right away. Like they'll say something and conceptually it makes sense. I'm not dim. It just, we're going to do ABC, but it just doesn't sound like the full truth. So, and I'll need them to repeat it. And then I'll start, when I start asking myself, am I dim? No, you're not. It's that something what they're saying it's just not actually resonant. It's not the right thing. It's not the next right move, as like Oprah would say. She's, like, you don't have to know all of the moves to make, but you got to know and focus on what is the next right move. And when someone kind of lays out a plan and it's not totally aligned, I can go, am I just dim that I didn't get that? Oh, no, it's that's not aligned with what we're actually doing. That's why. And now I can identify it's them and it's not me, rather than, I think as women and as sensitive people, women and men, we can easily go, I want to take this opportunity to grow. And I certainly can't lead if I'm not honest and genuine and authentic. Is it me? How is it me? And I've learned a little bit about when to ask that and when to say, this isn't me, this is you.
That's a really important one, especially for female leaders in this space. It's like to understand, to discern, like if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it, and have the courage to, and also have the courage to just dismiss it and keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. If the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it.
Yeah. Have you, as a female founder working with them, I've often seen this, inherent need of people wanting to provide feedback, like you're entitled to their opinions of you. You're like, oh, can't wait. Let me wait for all the different ways you want to express your hurt feelings of something you disagree with.
Because I need to do the emotional labor to make you feel comfortable all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And it's it becomes like one or the other, either an exercise in patience, where you nod and smile and discern internally between the shoe that doesn't fit. Right. Or you learn how to take a stand and gracefully bow out. Right. But which both times do you go to?
It really depends who's delivering it. Because I think there are times to just let people feel heard, even if you're not going to do business with them in the future, or you can't see how. It's not just don't burn the bridge, but let people. Everybody deserves to feel heard to some degree, and if they need that from me, and we're going to cross paths again in the future. Who knows how? Who knows when? I can be so frustrated and just like, do not bother me with this. But if I can find it, if I can find it in me to just be graceful in that moment and it doesn't take too long, usually the better decision. Because I know myself. If I get going and I tell you what I really think, it might not go well. So sometimes I will opt for the just because also, when people have they want you to do that emotional labor, there is still, I think, an assumption that as a woman, you should just be willing to do it. It's not fair. It's not right. But I think it still happens. And I find that I've really ruffled some feathers by not gracefully bowing out. And it always takes some kind of emotional labor. And I think that that's just part of new work and women still not being completely equal in the workplace, honestly. I think that there's just a bit of a mommy complex that still follows around women, even though I don't have kids for a reason.
Yeah, it's almost like you just kind of defined my whole week last week. My unwillingness to like be nurturing about your completely trivial behavior. Because I don't have time for it. Like, it's not, I don't have time in the day to stop and baby your behavior that's 100% inappropriate just because you would let it go if I listened and nod and scratch your ego for a minute. You know, I'm just like busy, you know, just as busy as you are.
Yeah.
But there is that inherent need. And what I also see is like women will jump on the bandwagon to just be like, shouldn't you be more nurturing? I'm like, should I? should I shut on me? Well, or do you want to shut on me here? Like, what's the game here? How's that internalized patriarchy treating you today? And why do you feel the need to put that on me?
Right.
You know, it's very important. And then just like you said, it's just like we all know, and you just said it, is the easier way out sometimes is to just sit there and nod.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't take too long. If it starts taking too long, I can say like, you know, I want you to feel heard, but I have to stop this now. I don't have any more time to do this. I want you to know I heard this, this, and this. These are the things that I heard. I understand that's how you feel. We're having a disagreement. We can agree to disagree, and I'm going to have to go now. And then they still be going, God, what a bitch, you know?
I know. Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is to just be like, I appreciate your expressing your thoughts and feelings. You know, it's like, I need a little time with that right now. That's a good one, by the way.
I need a little time with that.
Yeah,
because I want to focus on it for longer. That's just a bald-faced lie.
No, yeah. But if I express it, I need a little bit more time with it, then things just have a way of fizzling away.
Yeah, no, that makes a sense. Sometimes just let it sit on the vine until it rots on its own. Yeah. I've noticed that, I mean, as I said, my last company was in the arts and culture space, and there was a lot more gender equality there. There were so many more women, not always in leadership positions, but working in that space as arts administrators, as artists. The majority of my customers and the artists that came to my retreat center were female. And so it was a very unintentionally female-centric place. Most of the team members were female, very few men. Like really cool men would stick around. Once they fit, they stayed on for a long time, like years. But it was mostly women, young women that were looking for mentorship, young artists who were not sure how to make a living as an artist. And it was so different than getting back into technology, where, you know, at first I've noticed that there is so much determined sisterhood in the tech space, especially in blockchain now. Yes. People are like, we are not going to mess this up for each other. We're going to help each other. I want to help you. You're going to help me. And we're really mindful of it, which is refreshing, because the other side of that is there are so few of us that we have to stick together. You know, it's been a big adjustment to get used to these male-female dynamics with men exclusively or almost exclusively in leadership positions who have a lot of power and they have a lot of decision-making authority, and you have to listen to them.
We have 6% of the share, you know.
I didn't know it was only 6. Oh gosh.
Women fill 6% of C-suite positions.
Whoa. Thank you for telling me that.
It's like you can feel it, you know. You're like, yeah.
6%. All right, moving on from that.
But I also want to, I could talk to you forever, but I want to honor your time because you've told me that you needed to go. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this chat. I know everybody listening is going to get so much out of this as well. And I can't wait to run into you again. Thank you.
I can't wait to run into you too. This is going to be great. Let me know next time you're back off the beach and in New York.
I will do that. And to everyone listening, we're going to put some links to below the podcast so you can find Monika and connect with her and listen to her podcast and dive into her world of expertise. Thank you so much. And I talk to all of you guys on the next episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your ongoing support. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Please go check out dnxcommunity.com. This is where you'll find the other nomads and evaders of convention. We'll see you there. And if you're interested in our English-speaking events, go and check out dnxglobal.com. You'll find the link below this podcasts as well. And if you have time, one last favor, please go to iTunes, look for Silvia Chrisman or look for the DNX podcast and leave a review. Thank you so much, lovely people, and I'll talk to you next time.